it's a work in process. But if you stop by, I'm very thankful. If you're watching this on the replay, I'm very thankful that you're here. Again, my name is Bill Marion, and this is A Nose for Life. I'm glad you're here. And the thing about yesterday, we put out a video, and I forget what time it was that we released the video. It was somewhere earlier in the afternoon or mid afternoon, and then later, you get to go back and see, who's watched the video, or not who's watched the video, but how many people watched the video. We had, I think, close to 40 views or something like that, but most of those were after the video. So I think it's going to take time to get people used to the fact that we do a live thing before it becomes a thing. I'm air quoting like this. The other thing is trying to get used to a delayed picture, because if I watch the YouTube feed to try to get involved with the chat, then there's a delay. So I'm trying to figure out how all of that works. I know that a lot of people, and I'm still adjusting my screen here, I know that a lot of people give some advice on this stuff, but most of the time, if it's a how-to session, you're going to be paying for it, and I just can't afford that right now. So I'm having to kind of figure it out on my own, which is how I've kind of done everything on YouTube, is figuring it out on my own, which it works most of the time, but it takes a while. The learning curve there is pretty long when you're kind of poking around and figuring it out yourself. Right now, what I'm trying to do is get my notes for today, and we're talking about never giving up. I'm totally motivated by the Darkest Hour movie, which is amazing, and I'm still looking for it right now. Recents, here we go. There we go. All right, excellent. So we can get started, and it may take people a little while to get here into the chat room, and that's fine. We're going to start anyway, and that way we can focus on the playback. Today, we're talking about never giving up. I posted a video, I think it was last February, if I'm not mistaken, about never giving up or don't give up. I don't know what happened when it comes to the views. We didn't have that many views on that particular. It was a terrible video. In all truth, it wasn't a well-cut video. It wasn't well filmed. It was something I did actually while I was working at my normal job. It was like between sessions. I was like on a lunch break, and then I did some other filming during other breaks that I had during the day. And I did the editing that night. I just kind of slammed it together, but it's poorly filmed. You can find it in the comments below. I didn't include it into the cards today to point towards because it's not made well. But here's the thing. It was just sort of a you can do it kind of video. You can do it. It was one of those. And truthfully, I just spit when I talk truthfully. I didn't think that anybody would watch it, period. But here's what's funny. I think it probably had 50 views. I haven't checked it to see if it's collected some views in the past 6, 7, 8 months or whatever. But how many people inboxed me through YouTube or by other means? Especially, that was back when VidMe was up and rolling. Especially on VidMe. On VidMe, I don't know how many people kind of send a message to me saying, "Oh my goodness, I really needed to hear that. Thank you so much." It was kind of crazy. It was one of those things where the people that watched it really responded. I mean, probably over half of them were just blown away and needed to hear, "Don't give up. You're still in the game." And it's probably something everybody needs to hear. It's probably something that we all need, the motivation, the pep talk every now and then, but a legitimate one, something that's honest and sincere. And honesty and sincerity, it's tough to come by these days. So I'm going to send one more text here, and because we're not really supposed to start until 8, so I'm going to go ahead and send the text now. I'm just letting some people know that I'm on. Hopefully they can join us. And then turn my phone off, because most of the time what happens is that as soon as I get to talking and I forget to turn my phone off, the phone rings, which I'm totally expecting to happen. And right now I still have some of you tech people that watch this. It'd be great to get an inbox from you, or you can even post it in the comments as far as I'm concerned, on if you're working with just one laptop and, managing all the systems that you have, and how do you manage everything as you're going without some type of tech person helping you out, taking care of all that stuff for you. I have no idea how to do it. So I always feel like I'm doing 50 things. I watch some people online that do live streams that kind of have the same amount of subs that I have, give or take. They cover different topics, but they're pretty cool YouTube creators. But they do a lot of live stuff, a lot of conversation stuff like this, and it's very common for them to kind of pause in the middle and just start typing over here. And and they're young. Of course, they're younger people. They're in their 30s. They're 34, 35, and to them, it's very normal to do a live kind of broadcast like that. I'm still getting used to it. But hey, it's where everybody's at right now. And considering we had so many people watching the playback, I would consider yesterday a success. And by the way, I want to point this out. I'm very grateful to YouTube because YouTube actually monetized that video. Now, again, my videos as of the middle of February will not be monetized any longer until I reach 1,000 subs. So it's very important for people who are watching this. It's very important for you to share this and subscribe to our channel, and of course, click the bell for notifications. The reason why is because we don't ask for money on here like a lot of YouTube channels, and there's nothing wrong with them asking for money. Don't misunderstand me. But we've decided a long time ago not to do that. We decided to stick to product, and we decided to stick to some other goals and visions that we have for where this channel is going to go. So the only way that we can become a verified partner is when we have 1,000 subscribers and we have 4,000 hours of watch time. The watch time is there. It's the subscribers that we're missing, and we have a lot of people that watch us that they don't subscribe to anything, and that's fine in most cases. But here's what I'm saying: get you an account and subscribe, because we need the subscribers to keep this channel healthy. We've been a verified partner now for a long time, and so there's perks that come with that. And from what I understand, we're going to be grandfathered into those perks, but we just can't monetize those videos. The problem with not being monetized is that you are not as visible. You see what I'm saying? So there's a big perk there with being monetized. YouTube says that's not the case, but other people say that it is, so it's hard. But I want to appreciate or say that I'm grateful that YouTube did put the green sticker on there, the monetization sticker. Thank you for yesterday. And they've been monetized in our videos, even the ones where we're kind of being objective and honest about the situation at YouTube right now. So I'm very grateful that YouTube did that. Thank you so much, YouTube. And anyway, today we are talking about not giving up. And it's important. And here's where this video actually was birthed, or this chat was birthed. I've seen The Darkest Hour twice. I saw it the first time with one of my very best friends, Ken Hartley. We had a great time. Both of us left the theater teary-eyed and ready to take on the world. It was amazing. We walked out of there just like speaking in our best British accents and ready to take on the Nazis, right? Ready to kill everybody in the name of freedom. And then I watched it again with my dad, and we both enjoyed it. I enjoyed it the second time more because I paid more attention to the details of what was taking place on the screen. It's not that I didn't the first time, but the second time I enjoyed the movie more because I was hanging on every single word. I'd done some reading going into the second time, and so I loved it. And it's just a motivating film, not to mention the fact that it's an Academy Award-winning kind of film. I mean, the acting is superb. The directing is superb. The cinematography is superb. I'm surprised it's not nominated for more things, but I wanted to talk today about never giving up, about holding on when you feel like that there's no hope, holding on when you feel like it's all crashing down. And here's what's funny is that this can actually apply. And again, forgive me for trying to figure out the live stream, how this is working here, where I'm sitting and everything, and how this is going to play out as far as what's framed behind me. I apologize, but here's the thing. A lot of people, they get involved with something. They get involved with, whether it be, in some cases, it's a ministry. In some cases, it's trying to start a new job, trying to start a new career. And it's so easy to throw your hands up at moments when it really does feel like it's useless. When it really does feel like there's no hope and you're not going anywhere with it. It's so easy to say, you know what? I quit. I throw in the towel. I can't do it anymore. And it becomes a day-to-day struggle where you get up every single morning saying, I don't want to do this. And then it kind of crumbles into a depression and into a darkness. Another reason why I love the movie The Darkest Hour is because I love the way it's named, The Darkest Hour. It's just, on a personal level, I have felt at times like I am in my darkest hour. It can't get any worse than this. So what I want to talk about today with you, and I hope that some people will jump in the chat and talk about some stuff as people come into the room here and kind of share their own experiences as far as not giving up, or offer their own suggestions, because you'll be surprised at what people watch in the chat room there as people are interacting as I'm talking. You can actually help other people about not giving up. Now, as far as the playback's concerned, I know that if I had the full blown chat with 1,000 subscribers, you could actually see that in the replay. You could see the chat interaction in the replay, but I don't have access to that I know of. But I do want to say this and start out by saying that living, um, living itself can be hard. It is hard sometimes to wake up every single day and greet the morning with a kiss. You know, when I was younger and in college and smoking a lot of dope, I'm very transparent, by the way. So if you're one of those very spiritual, holier than thou types, this probably isn't for you. But don't forget to click the like button on your way out. But back when I used to smoke dope, it was really easy to get up in the morning and greet the sunshine with a kiss. You know, I was all about poetry and literature, still am. But there was this wonderful haze or glow around life because I didn't have any kind of responsibilities. I didn't have anything to do. I think a relative of mine, one of my uncles, said, "You don't have any sense of urgency." That's what they said. You have no sense of urgency. And he was right. His name was Willie Doan, and I love him. Love him and Teresa. He and Teresa, they're just great people and very successful. And they could see that I was about to crash because I was just so aloof and my head was in the clouds. But people who are trying to go for something, especially if you're trying to go for something that nobody around you is going for, nobody around you has the faith or the belief structure or whatever the case is to make that jump or that leap into that thing that you're going for. It's hard when you make that decision. You say, "I'm going to do this. I'm going to give everything I've got to this and try my very, very best." For me, it's becoming a pastor. YouTube is a hobby, and creating videos is a hobby. I want to be able to incorporate both of those into what I do. But I got to be honest with you, it is very, very difficult when God gives you a dream and you have a belief that God is leading you a certain direction, and you're defying all odds to get there. It's not easy. It's very difficult. And sometimes you feel like you are in your darkest hour, like it just can't get any worse than this. Because let's just be honest, the world's a tough place. The world's a tough place. I don't, whatever your belief structure is, if you're not a Christian and you're watching this, um, I think you would even agree that the world's a tough place. There are very few handouts in the world as far as people saying, "Here, have this stage for free. Here, have this opportunity for free." Opportunities come, you know, here and there. They can be sparse sometimes from one opportunity to the next to do what it feels like that you're supposed to do. So living and life and the pursuit of life and what you love doing is very, very difficult. And maintaining that level of hope of saying, I hope that this can happen. I hope that this goes, that this is a go, that this happens. It can get you can become hopeless really, really quick because of how many things that we face that make it so very difficult. And so I wanted to share just a few things. First of all, I think it's very good to have a perspective on what you're trying to do and where you're at, because sometimes we get hopeless because I'm just going to say it, because we're spoiled. And I say it to my generation and to all generations. I checked my analytics with YouTube, and it turns out that about 45% of the people that watch my videos, they're under the age of 35, which is normal because that's the majority of the people who are on YouTube. The other 50 whatever percent, they range from 35 all the way to 70. It's kind of great. 10% of my viewers are males that are 65 years and older. So we have all kinds of people that watch this video. So I say this to everybody, but especially to my generation and younger, because older generations than me, let's say you're 55 and beyond, you guys have done an amazing job. You're doing great things. You're still in it to win it. You're doing amazing things. But younger generations are having a hard time seeing clarity in some of their goals. Things change so rapidly right now that you might be focused and you feel like you have it all figured out, and hey, I've got this down. I understand what's going on, and then all of a sudden technology will change, or the parameters of what you were pursuing changes, or the company that you work for makes a change, and you feel like the rug is dragged out from underneath you and you just fall flat on your face. And that happens a lot. But then what happens to our generation and younger is then we begin, because we were coddled a little much, and let's just be honest with it, and it's not just the millennials, it's little Generation X too. We've been coddled as well. But all of us, have been a little spoiled to the point that sometimes when we fall on our face, when we're pursuing that dream or that goal, we begin to feel sorry for ourselves, and we begin to lose focus on life and lose focus on what we wanted to do, and that creates hopelessness. And I've got a book I want to recommend, and none of you have, many of you have probably heard of this, but some of you probably haven't. It's a bestseller. It's one of those big books, and there it is right there. It's called The Noticer. And this is something that you really, really, this is a book that you really, really need to get. The Noticer, I'll be honest with you, Todd Eddy is the one who's a very close friend of mine. He's the one that actually bought me this book, and I'm so very grateful. And I had just broken my leg when he bought me this book, and it was an older book when he bought it for me. But it's Andy Andrews, The Noticer. There are some great moments in this book. I don't want to give any of them away, but if you're in that mode where you have fallen flat on your face and you feel like it's time to give up, and you need a perspective change, you need some type of change in your ideology, or to get you going because you've made a mess, or maybe somebody else has made a mess and it's caused you to fall. That's happened to me. Somebody else's bad decisions have affected me. That's happened a lot. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why you're in the situation. You're in the situation. And that would be something that I would say to you first. Forget why you're in the situation. Deal with the pain. If it's a heartbreak or something has caused you to be in the situation that you're in and it's a struggle, deal with the pain. But then realize, in order to get out of that pain, you're going to have to dismiss it. It doesn't mean that you have to forget about it forever. Maybe you're going to have to deal with it later. But you have to get over the past before you can go forward. Learn from the past. Learn from those mistakes. Don't repeat those mistakes, but move forward. But anyway, Andy Andrews, The Noticer, one of the greatest books that I've ever read as far as giving you a perspective, a different way of looking at things. And all of a sudden, you'll find yourself feeling grateful for the situation that you're in. That book has helped me on numerous occasions. It's just a wonderful book, and I highly recommend that. And since I don't have any type of Amazon affiliate links or anything, I have no purpose of mentioning that book other than the fact that it's just a great book. It's amazing. And there's so many scenes in that book that literally made me tear up, tears running down my face. And it's not a real, what I would call, sappy book. It's kind of straightforward, and it's kind of fiction, kind of not. You'll have to read it and get back with me. Hey, if you have read The Noticer, let me know in the comments, because I would love to know somebody else has had the same experience with The Noticer that I've had. Great book. But one of the things also that when you're in that position where you feel like giving up and all hope is lost, is you need partnership. You need some people around you that love you, that care about you, and that they want to see you succeed. They want to see you succeed. And it might be that you have to be a little more agreeable yourself. One of my very dear friends, Pastor Ronnie Phillips, wrote a book called The Power of Agreement. And sometimes the ability to pick yourself up has to do with how well you can get along with others. How well you need partner. When you're in a pit, you need some people to help you get out of the hole, right? To lend a hand down to help you get out. And a lot of times that means that you have to adjust who you are, especially if you are in a mess of your own making. You did it yourself. If you've made a mess yourself, you need some people around you to help you figure out how you got in that mess, how to get out of that mess, and how to avoid that mess in the future. But it takes getting along with people. It takes knowing who you are in their life and who they are in your life. It's another book I want to recommend. It's called The Power of Agreement by Pastor Ronnie Phillips. It's an amazing book, and so check that out. You need clarity. One of the things I like about The Darkest Hour, about the whole story, not just the movie, but the whole event that took place there, is that Great Britain found itself in a situation where they had ignored a problem a long time. They had ignored an issue. They tried to make friends with the enemy, so to speak, as opposed to understanding the enemy, and that there was no peaceful agreement that could be found. Hitler was blitzing across Europe, and instead of stopping Hitler at Munich, they gave him sort of an open door to continue, and then they found themselves in World War II and in a mess at Dunkirk. And you need clarity. You need to understand what's happened in order to place you in the position that you're in. If you didn't create the situation that's put you in a dark hour, if you didn't create the situation, you still need to know how you got there to go forward. And again, don't forget what I said earlier, though. You don't want to hold on to that. You don't want to hold on to the history of it, but you need to know why. You need to know why you got there. How did this mess happen? Not only how did this happen, but what's the potential and the likelihood of it happening again? I want to refer back to something I was talking about yesterday as far as video content and making videos to try to give you some kind of an analogy. Just bear with me on this analogy, though. It may not apply to what you're going through right now, but hopefully you'll be able to see the analogy. So YouTube changed some things. They changed some things, but it just so happens that I really like creating videos. I'm learning a lot to do other things that I want to do by making YouTube videos. And when I say YouTube videos, I just mean video content in general. But you probably understand it as a YouTube video. But understanding what's happened over the past 18 months with YouTube, it's kind of given me some armor, because the first few times some things happened, it hurt and it made me mad. And I wanted to quit and not make videos anymore. I thought, what's the use in this? I'm too old, too short, too fat, too bald, whatever the case is. All three of those apply, by the way, that's true. But still, you do what you love anyway. You do it despite all the circumstances that you're facing, and you go forward with those things. You move forward as best as you can. But when YouTube did that with the algorithm and they said the adpocalypse and everything that started happening to YouTube creators, first of all, I had to acknowledge I wasn't the only one it was happening to. It wasn't personal. It's not personal. What's happening to my channel right now is not personal. They're not out to get me. There's nobody in a back room right now taking notes going, we're going to take down Bill's channel. My channel right now is not significant enough to be taken down. Nobody cares about this channel yet. One day they will, but right now they don't. It's not personal. It's equally distributed to everybody. Everybody is going through it. So that's the first thing, is get some clarity about your situation. Whatever the situation is, you don't have time to feel sorry for yourself. Yes, there are things and situations that people go through that you have to stop first before you can even get clarity and address the fact that it hurts. And in some cases, you need to seek help. In some cases, you might even need to seek professional help because the pain is overwhelming. And I would encourage you to do that. But I would encourage you to never give up. But along the way, you have to get clarity. And when you get clarity, you're going to see how blessed you are. Yes, blessed. You say, now, Bill, you don't know what I've been through. You don't know how hard things are. You don't know how difficult things are for me right now. You don't know how I was treated. You don't know how I was dropped on my head as a baby, whatever the case is, how terrible things have been in my life. You're right. There are things that people go through that I will never comprehend. I have my health. The only health issues that I have brought them on myself. That's the truth. So I don't have any health issues that I was kind of born with, so to speak. And there are people that are born into situations for all kinds of reasons that make it more difficult for other people. So I want to acknowledge that for some people, it's harder to climb that ladder. It's harder to achieve certain goals. But here's what I say to that. There have been people in your circumstances, and I'm going to be straight. So if you want to, yell at me in the comments, you're more than welcome. Matter of fact, please comment. I would appreciate it. There have been people that have been born into worse situations than you've been and have made it. You have to accept get clarity, understand who you are and the disadvantages that you have. But there's always a way to get through your circumstances because other people have done it. And if other people have done it, you can too. There's very few things in life where you're the trailblazer and nobody's been through what you've been through. It happens, but there's always somebody who finds a way. There's always somebody who finds a way. Be the trailblazer. Find a way out. If you do have such a unique situation that nobody can understand it, well, be that person that blazes a trail for other people. And I'm going to tell you something, that's a big deal. Understanding that you're blessed is so important, that you have been given something to give you an edge. You just have to find it. And the other thing is that you need to bloom where you're planted. That's tough. This is one of the toughest things because can you imagine being a flower? Can you imagine being a flower and the situation is difficult? You're not getting the nutrients that you need. It's tough being a flower that's half shaded during the day. Well, you got to bloom where you're planted. You got to bloom where you're planted. And it's tough because it means that you have to adjust to how things are taking place around you. I faced that about 12 years ago. God led Carolyn and I into a situation, into a wonderful area where I love the Tennessee Valley, love it. But it was a hard situation because I hadn't lived in the Tennessee Valley in 10, 12 years, and I was new. We were basically starting all over. Actually, it's been longer, 12 years ago, been 15 years ago. and it was so new. And I realized that there was a different culture in this part of the valley than where I had lived for 10 or 15 years. It was a different way of thinking. But I had to learn to bloom where I was planted. I had to learn to bloom and be successful at some kind of level where I was placed and find my niche, and we did. But it took time, and it took some grit, and it took some time to say, you know what? There's nowhere to run. We got to face things exactly the way they are, right here and right now. And that takes, again, you're going to hear this a lot today, is that also takes the ability to connect with other people who've been through what you've been through, or maybe they're just kind of like that person who gives you gives you some type of scene behind the castle wall, so to speak. Maybe you're in the villages outside the castle and you need in the castle for some reason. I don't know where I'm going with that analogy, but just go with it. And that you need that person to kind of give you a glimpse on the other side so that you know that there's hope, and that you know that it's possible for you to have joy and for you to have peace, and that it can happen. I want to talk briefly also about the concept of happiness, because again, the theme here is kind of the darkest hour, or never giving up. It is important to develop an understanding of happiness. Now, I had help with this with our senior pastor at the church, Dr. Ron Phillips. I had a lot of help with this probably 10 years ago, about the concept of happiness. And from there, I developed my own understanding of happiness. But it started with some things that he preached about. By the way, you can go to avoshouse.com and hear his sermons, as well as Dr. Ronnie Phillips's, and they're amazing. But he talked about happiness, as being happenstance. The idea that you're supposed to walk around happy, singing tra-la-la-la-la all the time. I don't know what tra-la-la-la is. I don't know where that came from. But that you're supposed to walk around kind of skipping, holding hands, and kissing butterflies. That's ridiculous. Of course, that's not how life works. But here's what I will say. If you love work, and what I mean by work is working at something that you love. Nobody loves to work at something that they hate, and that's drudgery. Drudgery is a 19th century concept that actually it goes back before the 19th century. But in the 19th century, we saw a lot of prosperity because it was understood that drudgery was a form of godliness. And that's silly. There's no Bible in that at all. None whatsoever. That drudging through. The only type of drudgery that would be godly in that type of understanding is with actually spreading the word of God and spreading, the message of salvation. If you're a Christian right now, you understand exactly what I'm talking about. That there is a drudgery to that. There is a hardship to that. When you are working, you should try to pursue something, especially in the day and time that we live in now, that makes you content. Happenstance, I can't promise you. But it is true that if you are working at a job every day that makes you sick on your stomach to go into work, that makes you absolutely hate life and is stealing all of the joy that God's given you and then all of the peace that God's given you, you need to get out and try to pursue something that actually fits who you are and what you believe and what you want to do. That being said, that means you have to adjust your budget. That means you have to understand the sacrifices that you might have to go through and the sacrifices that you're having to put your family through. But I also want to say this, sometimes when you're working and you hate your job, you're not working for you. You're working for your family. If you're a husband and wife, you're working for the other person. You're working for your kids. And so let that be your motivation as best as you can while you're pursuing something else that you enjoy doing, that you really believe that you should be doing. But the idea that you should stop working altogether, I'm going to tell you something. Staying busy is one of the most important things to get you through a darkest hour. Don't sit around. Don't sit around. I'm going to say this again. Don't sit around. It is the worst thing you can do is to lay around and be lazy. Carol and I said this the other day up at the Cherry-Hollow Skyway. Cherry-Hollow Skyway, by the way, if you've not seen my other videos, is a stretch of road between Tennessee and North Carolina. There are other roads that kind of branch off from that. It's a mountain chain. If you're familiar with the Tail of the Dragon, which is a famous motorcycle roadway that people come from all over the world to ride their motorcycles there, if you're familiar with that area, we did a video up there. You can check my channel for that video. It's a great video. There's snow on the mountains. It's beautiful. But we were up there, and we were actually talking about this very thing. And I'm going to tell you something. I love being up in the mountains. I absolutely love it. It's beautiful. And I could just stay up there all the time because I absolutely love it. Well, we had to find a way to where we could do these things that we love and focus on how can we learn to do what we love to do and make money and profit from this. And that's what our adventure on YouTube is all about. is we're learning how to do that. We know that we can't do that right this second or this minute, but we also know that down the road that's possible. Okay, we know that that's possible. So we had a great time in the mountains, and in those moments we were happy. But while I was editing the video for that, that was work. Now it's work that I love, so it doesn't feel like work, but it's fun, but it wasn't happy fun. There was a little bit of drudgery in that. There was a little bit of difficult time in that. So sometimes we have to drudge through something in order to get to those moments that we enjoy it. Most people right now that are watching this, though, and they're in the darkest hour, you might be in a situation where it's so dark that you don't know which way to turn. It's that dark. I challenge you to challenge yourself. I dare you to get up off the couch. And that's what we were talking about at Cherry Hill Skyway. I looked at the camera and I was talking and I said, you know what? The only thing stopping people, we had a picnic up there. Carol and I had this picnic in the middle of winter. It was like, I think it was 48 degrees or 50 degrees. And we had a full-blown picnic, in coats and scarves, and we had a great time. And I said, the only thing stopping everybody from doing this that enjoy that kind of thing is getting up off the couch. So you've got to find a way to get off the couch. And if you start talking about, well, I don't have the money for this and I don't have the money for that, well, the first thing I would do is cut your cable bill. Find a way to get out and get off the couch, to force you into movement, to escape self-imposed darkness. And that's what I call the life on the couch. It's self-imposed darkness. And it's not something you say, well, you don't understand. This has happened to me, and that's why I'm in this depression, that I'm here trapped on the couch. I understand that. I've been there. I wouldn't say any of this if I hadn't been there. But you are the one keeping you on the couch right now. That situation is not keeping you on the couch. I don't care what your situation is. And I know somebody can blow me up in the comments and say something like, well, but you don't understand. I've had this accident. I can't move this leg. I can't move this arm. I'm challenging you. And I guarantee you, your doctors are telling you the same thing. And you have family members saying the same thing. You can. You can find a way. You can find a way. It may take some help. And again, I'll go back to what I was saying earlier. You may have to come into agreement with some people. What I recommend, whether you're a Christian or whether you're a non-Christian, what I recommend is being a part of a church body. And that is why going to church is important. That is why having a local church body is so important, is because during those time periods, that's the people around you that pick you up and love you and help get you to the next place. But that means coming into agreement with the church body. That means coming into agreement, meaning that you might not always get your brand that you like at a church, or your particular music style, or your particular this. Sometimes you have to come into agreement. Means you have to compromise on some things to be able to fit into a group, to be able to fit into a group of people. You have to compromise and you have to come into agreement. But I promise you, there are people out there, there are good Christian people out there who would love to be able to assist you, to get you up off that couch and get you moving out of that self-imposed darkness. They are willing. One of the things that I encourage you to do as well, when you're going through the darkness and you're trying your best to not give up and hang in there, be spontaneous. Be spontaneous. When the thought comes to do something, don't mull it over about how hard it's going to be. Just go for it. Be spontaneous. I have found so many times that I get great joy when I just jump off the couch or get an idea or something and say, oh, okay, I'm going to try to do this. Some of the best videos we've made have come from that. Just jumping off the couch, being spontaneous. Some of the best videos have been made by just jumping up and saying, this is what we're going to do. We're going to jump up. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. For a while there, my best video, other than a Rogue One, we did a Rogue One video about the first reactions. For a long time, that was like the biggest video, but it was only like 7 minutes. But another video that we did was about Opryland. And again, I mentioned him earlier, Ken Hartley, one of my best friends. He loves that video, and he shared that video 50 times. I have friends and family members who love that video. That video, so I'm going to share this for the first time. If you've watched that video, this is the first time a lot of people are going to hear this, and nobody knows it. I was in a darkest hour in that moment that we went to Opry Mills, shot that video, and I got the idea to do a video about Opryland. And nobody knows that. So if you watch that Opryland video, the cat's out of the bag now, okay? That's what happened. I was in a horrible moment. I was in one of those darkest hour moments that had lasted for weeks on end. I was so depressed, I couldn't stand it. And all of a sudden, something just got inside me and said, get up, get up. And I looked at Carolyn and I said, do you want to go see a movie? And she went, okay, and I said, do you want to see one in Nashville? out of nowhere. And so off we went. We went to Nashville. There's a little bit more to the story to that, but essentially that's what happened. Our kids were leaving for prom. They were doing the whole prom thing, and we were like, let's go. But if you look at the whole story, I was in some pretty big darkness at that moment. And so that moment, and I might be getting the prom thing confused with another video, but still, I was in the darkest moment, and a spontaneous thing that took place led to, in the moment of darkness, leads to one of the greatest videos that we have on there that I'm still getting comments on. I got inboxed the other day by a great viewer. I'm so grateful for things like this. We had an email exchange for like, I don't know, I want to say 2 or 3 days about rebuilding Opryland. And I don't have the permission to mention this person's name, but they were so sincere. They want to rebuild Opryland. I mean, they're like, this is how much it would cost. Let's do it. They're ready to do it because they were motivated by that video. And that makes me feel great. But that video was birthed when I was miserable, and just by being spontaneous and getting off the couch. So if you're there right now, I feel you. I've been there. I know what it's like. Sometimes you gotta stand up. Another thing, and I'm totally stealing this from a buddy Ken, is that you need to learn to add value to other people. One of the things that happens when you get depressed is you become kind of egotistical. You become self-absorbed. It's all about you. You've been through some pain, maybe some rejection, some heartache, which automatically, every time I say the word heartache, I think of the Eagles song Heartache Tonight. And that's just confession. I'm just being real with you, okay? I hear the song in my head, and now it's in your head. I didn't mean to do that. But you've gone through some heartache. You've gone through some difficult times. And you get stuck in that mode, and suddenly it becomes all about you. If I would love it if somebody were just honest and just said that in the comments that they've been there. It becomes all about you and what you're going through. How many of you have been? Let's say you're a Christian and you go to Sunday school or you go to church. And I'm so glad I'm not teaching right now. I love it because I can actually say this and nobody will think it's them because. But how many of you have gone there and the person you're in Sunday school, okay? And maybe somebody in your Sunday school class, or it doesn't have to be Sunday school. It could be just a regular church group or whatever. You're in a Sunday school class and somebody is suffering with cancer and you're having prayer requests. Okay, you have somebody suffering with cancer. And then you have somebody suffering with a broken toe. And that broken toe or that broken leg, and I've had a broken leg, so, whatever. And that somebody with the broken toe or the head cold will dominate the time in the class that you're in talking about their head cold or their broken toe when somebody in cancer is in the same class and they're happy and joyful and you're like, you want that person to shut up because you're like, wow, how are you seeing that this is all about you when there's somebody dying of cancer back here? How can you compare this? How can you compare the two? And again, it's because you become so self-aware when you're going through something difficult that you forget there are people going through things much worse than you're going through. 2017 is a great example of that, and I'm not going to even get into that here, but we had a death in the family. We had several different tragedies in a row. And had I not gone through things in the past 10 years, that actually trained me to look at life differently, I don't know how 2017 would have turned out. I really don't. It was that dark at times. But Carol and I both have been through so many things over the past decade where we learned to look at life and go, you know what? It's not all about us. And as bad as things are, there are things happening worse to other people. And we have to keep that in mind, that it's terrible. Things are bad right now, but they're going to get better. That's the other thing, is that hope thing. They're going to get better. And there are other people who have faced much more difficult circumstances, and they've made it. You have to keep that in mind. People are going through worse things than you've gone through, and they're pulling out of it. So it's kind of like a dust your pants off, get the dirt off your pants, and stand up, Cupcake. You're going to be okay. And it's hard to say that, and it's kind of a tough love speech, but I'm not giving it to you. I'm asking you and challenging you to give it to yourself. Give yourself that tough love speech. Get up, Cupcake. If you're a YouTube creator watching this, I'm telling you, make the video you're going to make. Quit acting like you're going to quit making videos, because you wouldn't be watching this video if you were going to quit. So just stop and make the video. So the whole thing is that your prosperity is not going to make you any happier. Being rich is not going to make you any happier. So quit looking at your bank account and focusing on profits and how prosperous you are and how rich you are to determine how cheerful you're going to be. Okay, quit doing that. You need to learn to we all need to learn this. And by the way, I still struggle with all this stuff too. So I'm not talking to you from a high and mighty position here. Everybody struggles with this. Don't think you're the only one struggling with it, because you're definitely not. But you can't let the money that you have or don't have in the bank determine whether or not you're going to have a good day. You have to decide to have a good day. It has to be a conscious decision. Today, I'm going to have a good day. Here's a habit, and I don't remember which general it was. It was some special forces guru talking at a graduation about being successful and what they teach Navy SEALs. I wish I had the ability to like play you a clip of it. But he talks about the first thing that they teach is to make your bed every morning. And I so get that. Maybe it's because I was in the Army for 9 years, and I sort of get that, making your bed every day, because it's a great way to start your day. When I got up this morning, I made the bed. I don't like making beds. I hate making beds. But if you're in any type of situation where you feel like you're kind of lost or out of control, you're self-imposed on the couch, whatever, what we talked about earlier, and you're in that darkest hour, there are things in your life that you really do have control of more than you realize. There are things that you can do that will make it worse if you don't do them. Okay, if you don't clean your house and you don't keep that buzz about you and the things that have to happen every day, yes, it can be. You're making things more difficult on yourself. You're making things harder on yourself when you do those things, because you're just sitting around. You're not getting anything accomplished. So get the basics accomplished. Make the bed, clean the house. Decide what you're going to have for dinner. You say, I don't know what we're going to have for dinner because money's so tight and that's what we're going through. It's a financial thing. Learn to be a creative cook. Learn to be a creative cook. There's always something. If you're watching this right now, chances are you have internet. I bet you can find something to make with what you have in your cabinet. You can find something. I'm telling you. It's there. You have to just change your perspective. Again, for people who may be watching this or scrolling through this video, I want to recommend this book right here, The Noticer. Great book, because it helps with things like perspective and how to kind of be a little bit more positive about the situation that you're in. So when I look at things, I try to look at people who I admire and get information from them. I'm not despite the fact that I'm pushing, The Noticer here, the great self-help book, it really is. I don't read a lot of self-help books. They kind of generally all sound the same. And in full disclosure, they sound very similar to the way I'm sounding to you right now. They all say pretty much the same thing. So I don't read a lot of them because they all say kind of the same thing. And so here's the funny part of that. I have to remind myself sometimes, if they all say the same things, how come I don't have it down by now? Like, how come I can't just go into automatic mode when something goes down and I'm going through my darkest hour? How come I can't just go, yeah, that's right. Get it together, make your bed, that kind of thing. Well, it's hard. And so every now and then you do have to pick up a book, and you do have to pick up a book maybe from somebody that you admire, or go to a lecture, or go to a service, a church service or something, and go, okay, I need a refueling here. I need a refueling. I need a breath of fresh air, because I'm losing my ability to kind of mentally conquer the situation that I'm going through right now. I want to tell you one thing is that the sun, metaphorically, will come up again in your life. You will dance in the sunshine and in the rays. You will hear laughter again. I want to mention something about laughter, is that cynic laughter or sarcastic laughter is not positive. And it's very important to have laughter around you when you're going through a dark time. It's very important, but have the right kind of laughter. And I shouldn't say that, because there is a good book that needs to be written about this, and I need to be the one written it. If there has been a book written about it, I haven't read it and have never heard of it, about different kinds of laughter. You don't need to be around sarcasm and criticism-oriented laughter. There's nothing joyful about that. It takes down, and it doesn't build up. I also call it sophomoric humor. It's funny. You may laugh, but it doesn't build up. It doesn't build up the spirit. It doesn't do anything for who you are, and it's not loving. And usually when you're going through a really dark time, if you surround yourself with cynical, sarcastic people who are negative and always put other people down, always take away from their accomplishments, you're going to stay unhealthy. You're going to stay in a situation where you don't want to do anything outside of your comfort zone, where you don't want to challenge yourself outside of that box. You want to stay with people who are positive about the direction that God's doing in your life, and you're positive about theirs, and you're building each other's up. I don't know about you, but I don't want to be torn down when I'm trying to pursue a goal. And I don't like hearing other people torn down when they're trying to pursue a goal, because I like to admire the people who are accomplishing something in their destiny, and they're moving someplace, they're going someplace. I like to talk how great they're doing. I may not even understand all the things that they're doing to get there. I may think that they're going way around something to get to the place that they're getting, but they're moving and they're trying. And so I'm for them. I'm going to be for them 100%, even if I don't always understand. But what are you doing there? That's okay. They're moving. They're going forward. So you want to be around the right laughter. You want to be around people who are humorous and fun and funny, because in the darkest hour, somebody needs to tell a joke. Somebody needs to tell a joke. Somebody needs to lift you up, but not with cynicism and sarcasm and maybe some satire, maybe something, where you're not taking yourself or your situation too seriously. I know that Carolyn and I found ourselves laughing. Again, last year would have to be the most difficult year of our marriage, not between us, not between each other, but the circumstances that we were facing had to have been the most difficult year we've ever had. And it was one of the most difficult years I've ever had in my life. And Carolyn will tell you the same thing. We laughed a lot. We tried to find things in the situation that we were going through and talk about the satire of it, talk about how crazy some of it was. And we find that laughter is important. Try to find beauty in everything. That's hard. When you're going through a dark time, trying to find beauty can be difficult. If you notice, right when I said that, I started having a hard time finishing what I was going to say, because it's difficult having gone through depression. And again, my depression, again, is usually circumstantial. It's not like I just up and get depressed. It's usually because something's going on and it gets my mind all working. It's difficult to find beauty in something when all you can see is the darkness that you're going through. So I say this understanding that if you suffer right now, we'll just call it a dark hour. If you're suffering from that, try your best to find beauty in other things. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to you, but when you can, when you're able to, it may be the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen. I know in some of the darkest moments that I've ever had, and that I've ever had in my life, and Carolyn will admit this probably in her situation last year, is that some of the darkest moments you may be in a situation to see some of the most beautiful, amazing things you've ever seen. I'm actually working on a documentary right now about our 2017, or a part of it, about what we were faced with in Arizona. I'm not going to get into that here, but we're going to put that exclusively on Top Buzz for this one type of documentary. We're just going to put this on Top Buzz, and so you can join me over there to watch it in the next few weeks. But it's basically a documentary about how complicated that situation was, without going into a great bit of detail, and where the situation was taking place there in Arizona, and the contrast between the two situations. What we were going through with a family member had passed away unexpectedly and in very odd circumstances, and yet we're in the high deserts of Arizona, and we're kind of stuck there for 5, 6, 7 days, and seeing this amazing beauty in contrast with this horrible situation that we were going through. I can't tell you how that sustained us. And of course, we believe in God, and we believe that when you accept Christ as your Savior, we believe that you're protected by angels. And Carol and I both felt like we were protected by angels the entire time we were in Arizona. But we witnessed and saw some things that I've been to Arizona several times, but Carolyn's never been. And so I kind of was watching, looking at Arizona through her eyes. And as we were going through the high deserts and just trying to fill in the time gaps between visiting with the trying to piece together what had taken place, God really did a major work, and we saw some beautiful things. So that'll come out in Top Buzz here the next few days, so check it out. And but anyway, if you're going through the darkest hour, remember to kind of focus on something that may be beautiful, and it may be complicated, but it may get you through that darkest time. I know that it did us, and we're so grateful. Another thing is success. Like, a lot of times, a lack of success will put me on the couch. If I'm pursuing a certain goal and it's just not happening, it will put me on the couch. And then all of a sudden, I've triggered my own darkest hour because I get lazy in my head. Not lazy in my work, but lazy in my head, because I've stopped believing in what I believe God's told me that I'm supposed to do, and the things that God's given me the ability to do and the want to do. and it's not successful, and I just want to throw my hands up and quit. You know, the lack of success cannot be a determining factor in who you are and keeping you on the couch. Here's the thing: there's a lot to learn in failure. You learn by failing. You don't learn by succeeding. I'll say it. I'll scream it from the rooftops. I said this yesterday, and I know I made somebody mad because as soon as I said it, they left the chat room. But they did. I was like, oh, well, I didn't mean to. Wasn't talking to you, but apparently I made them mad. I didn't mean to. But people that don't, the most critical people I've ever met are people that talk about doing something all the time when they're ready to do it, and they never do it. And they put other people down for doing it. They put other people down, they ridicule them, they make fun of them, or whatever the case is. And then they have their want-tos that they're going to do as soon as they're ready, and they have all the right equipment, and they have all the right things in place, then they're going to do it. Those people never do anything. Here's what I say. Get to work, jump in where you're at, and begin. And I got that jump in where you're at from Ken, too. I stole that, too, from you, buddy. Sorry. But sure, you want to jump in wherever you're at in life, whatever you're wanting to do, whatever your age, just go do it. Quit listening to people saying you're too old, and in my case, too short, too fat, too bald. You know, quit listening to that nonsense. It's not true. Quit listening to people saying, oh, well, that can't work because of this, that, and the other, and they don't do anything. They don't do anything related to what you're doing. And you're like, well, you don't even know what I'm trying to accomplish in this, and you just want to laugh and pat them on the head, you know. But the saddest part is that cynical people like that, most of the time, they're doing it because they're hurting, because you're doing something they want to do and either don't know how, or they are facing so much fear they can't fathom that you would be successful at something and they're not. Those are the hardest people to ignore sometimes because they're some of the people that you love the most. But if those are the people that are sucking your joy out, they're sucking your peace, they're keeping you from, they're keeping your mind kind of locked up, man, ignore those people. Say, talk to the hand. That's not a thing, is it, anymore? It's not. Talk to the hand. We don't do that anymore. Well, I still do it, but you probably talk to I'm 43. Come on. And in trying to create video content, I get teased all the time by my buddies, and it's one thing to get teased by your buddies because your buddies are allowed to tease you. They're allowed to give you a hard time. But what's funny about a lot of my buddies, they watch my videos. And that, to me, you can tease me all you want to, but they support it in their own way, But of course, your close buddies are going to tease you and make fun of you. That's what they're supposed to do. They're your buddies. So you learn to take criticism and learn to take a joke. Learn to laugh at yourself and not take yourself too seriously. I've got buddies who watch my videos and they don't make fun of me to my face, but they let me know that I'm cracked on behind my back, and that's fine. I love you, David. It's cool. But that's okay because they're your friends and you've been through something together and you trust them, and they can push you to greatness too. I remember finding out one of my friends was actually watching my video. I had no idea that they were watching my videos. I had no idea that they even cared enough to watch my videos. I know they loved me, but I didn't know that they would even watch the videos, and it blessed me. And so when you're in those darkest hours, if you don't identify people in your life that you can come into agreement with to kind of get that nourishment of, hey, there's some people in your circle that really care about you enough to sit and watch one of your terribly edited videos that's almost incoherent, and they sat and watched it and even commented on it. If you can't appreciate that, you really need to reevaluate where you're at, and you may be that person on the couch feeling sorry for themselves, and your predicament is nowhere near as big as it really is. So be grateful and feel blessed at all the people who are around you who really are for you. And never forget that. You got a lot of people for you. Sometimes in the darkest hour, and this is going to sound cheesy, and I came up with this last night, and so forgive me if this is too cheesy, but it means something to me. Carolyn and I love nature. We do. We love being out in the woods. We love being in the mountains. We love being in the desert. We love being outdoors. So we fall in love with moonlight. The moon. We love all the phases of the moon. I know during the total eclipse last year. And by the way, I have a great, just real quick, in my video selections, there's a great little documentary about our group, Nose for Life. We went to Spring City, Tennessee to watch the total eclipse. And I would love for you to watch that. We had a great time. I think we had like 25, 30 people show up. We had a lot of fun. And so check that out. I hope you got to see the eclipse last year. It was amazing. But we love things like that in nature. And so the moonlight for us, when there's a full moon, we always have our cameras out there. And we've captured, that's cameras, by the way, in case you didn't know, that meant camera. I'm focusing. See, actually with me it's just this, but with Carolyn, she does the camera thing. Check out her photography page, by the way, at Bill Marion Life. That's at Bill Marion Life. She has an entire photography thing there. It's beautiful. It's amazing. But we take pictures of the moon and different types of filters, and trying to learn all kinds of ways to capture more images of the moon because we love that kind of stuff. And this hit me last night, is that sometimes in our darkest moments we forget the moon's coming up and it's not quite as dark as you really think it is. And find the moonlight. I know that's cheesy. I know it is. I thought, don't say it, Bill, don't say it. But I have to, is that in those darkest moments where you think it can't get any worse, look for the moon. And I'm going to tell you something, as a deer hunter, I hunt, and I'm terrible at it, but but as a deer hunter, somebody loves to go out in the woods, my son Nathan and I, we talk about this all the time, that it's so scary going in the woods like at dark 30 in the morning. There's something scary about walking, and we have to walk through a graveyard, not through the graveyard, but around the graveyard to get to where we hunt on our land. And it's just scary walking around. It's just really scary because it's dark. So we love it when like we go hunting and there's a full moon that morning and you can like see everything, even though it's kind of not good for hunting, because it's not quite as scary because a full moon will absolutely light up a forest, man. I mean, you can see all the way through the forest, which again, that isn't good for hunting, but at least you're not scared of zombies when that happens. I knew that was going to happen. I always getting phone calls. It'll happen again here in a second. I appreciate your patience on that. So look for the moonlight. Look for the moonlight. And I appreciate your patience here. If you are with me live, I appreciate it. I do have to, let me take care of this right now. I appreciate your patience. Thank you. All right, we're back. See, when people go live like this and there's a full chat room, it's okay for them to, like if they're on YouTube and they're doing YouTube live, it's okay for them to like reach, grab the phone, and do something that they have to do. I know one guy, he feeds his baby when he goes live, and he'll have like 400 or 500 people in the chat room, and he's feeding his baby, and I love it. And so it's okay to, it's loose. It doesn't have to be as controlled or as formed as other types of things that you do. So I kind of like that, but I'm still learning, and I still don't know how to get people in the chat room. It's difficult, to get people up and running in the chat room, making comments. I can't get that. So if you are watching this later, if you could comment on this, it would be great. And of course, share all of our content. I do want to mention our Facebook page one more time. It's at Bill Marion Life. Again, that's at Bill Marion Life. Please join our Facebook page, and of course, subscribe to the channel. And I'm so grateful that you're watching. Again, we're talking about the darkest hour here for just a few more minutes. If you're in the darkest moment, the darkest time period of your life, and you're in the struggle, that's what we're going to call it, in the struggle. And you can't get off the couch, you're having a hard time, what we've been talking about right now is, first of all, is not giving up. If that goes without saying, to bloom where you're planted, start connecting with people, get some clarity about your situation, be grateful for what is happening in your life. We've been talking about all this for about 45 minutes. We've been talking about laughter, how important the right kind of laughter is. You want the right kind of laughter, not cynicism, sarcasm, not subtle, put downs or whatever cases. You need the right kind of laughter, which is building up and not tearing down. You want to look for the beauty in things and try to find something that's beautiful, that gives you peace. I was speaking earlier about my friend David, who, he's talking to me about going over in Tellico, Tennessee. If you're not from Tennessee, look this up. It's Tellico. It's a gorgeous place. You can catch the Cherahalla Skyway there. It's beautiful. But he was talking about how he goes there all the time. He'll take time off work and just head up there, just to kind of get some clarity, get focused again, and just to see some nature. If you're not a person that's into nature, then for you, it could be whatever it is that brings you that moment of joy and peace, that gets you out of that rut and gets you out of that concept of self-isolation there on the couch. One of the things that also will help get you off the couch and out of that darkness is, and this sounds crazy. It really does sound crazy, but it's be interesting. Be interesting. You say, what do I mean by be interesting? Start studying some things out of your normal thing, out of what you do. You may not have gone to school to study, I don't know, horticulture, planting flowers and stuff. Find something that halfway interests you that you've never done before and get your mind off whatever it is going on. Because if you can find something that interests you so that you become more interesting, you'll be surprised at how that frees you up. You might annoy your friends to death with it, because I know that I got knee deep. I watched a few YouTube videos and it ruined me in physics. They were just simple lectures, but I said, okay, I've got to get off of YouTube and I need to start studying. I need to figure it out. So I started taking all these classes and starting to learn, and it started hurting my head. But I'm going to tell you something. It helped me a great deal with depression because it got my mind off of me. And again, a lot of depression is focusing on self. And you're not going to hear this in a lot of places. A lot of people, they nurse depression as opposed to being honest about depression. And a lot of times, especially if it's situational depression, where it's something that's happened that's created depression, a lot of times it's because you're focusing too much on you. And again, we're not talking about clinical depression here. It's a completely different thing. We're talking about people, you're in that darkest hour because of the circumstances that's happened to you. I will say this: if it goes on and on too long, you need to see a doctor. I've got to say that. That's just the right thing to say, and you need to see a doctor. But most of the time, it's situational depression, and you can get up off that couch and you can make something happen, and you can pull yourself out of it. It's not the message that a lot of people want to hear, because again, we want to baby ourselves. We want to poo-poo ourselves and, oh, bless your heart. And that works for a while, especially if somebody has done you wrong. If you've been in a situation that's terrible, you want to address that, and you go through your pain, but give yourself a time limit. I'm gonna be upset about this many weeks or this many days, and then after that, I've got to find a way out of it. I've got to find a way not to be sad about it anymore and get over it. And again, I always use the word cupcake. Get over it, cupcake. We've talked about being positive and being around the positive people. There are people in your life that naturally pull you down because maybe they're going through something, and here's something that you probably don't know. It's possible, and well, maybe you do, but a lot of people don't know this about themselves. It's possible that you pull people down and don't know it. It's possible that you are the one that when they're with you, you're the one hurting. That's something that I've had to accept about myself. If you are talking all the time about you, you are not adding any value to the other person. And it hurts because, again, we get selfish, especially as we get older. You get in that midlife thing, and it becomes all about your aches and pains and what you're going through, never having the empathy to say, what are you going through? How can I make your life better? How can I add to you? That's something you have to be in a habit of. It doesn't come natural to do that, because when you're hurting and things aren't going right, you want it to be all about you. It's a song I used to make up and sing. It's kind of like, I'll sing that some other time anyway. I'm not even going to go there. But you have to be able to add value to other people. And again, I'm totally stealing that from my buddy Ken. But adding value to people is so important because it gets your mind off of your own self and your own mess that you're in. It's very important. Be optimistic about the future. Sometimes that means getting off of your social media. If you listen to every single political post, if you watch every single conspiracy theory on YouTube, I've done that, by the way. If you watch all kinds of negative things all the time, that is all your mind is going to be filled up with. There's a buddy of mine. I'm definitely not going to mention his name or occupation or anything, but all he posts on his social media is, and I've got a lot of buddies that do this, so nobody's going to be able to figure out who I'm talking about. But all they post on Facebook is about like devils and demon worship and how we need to be careful against it, guard against it. And that's all he posts. That's all he talks about. And I'm thinking, man, if whatever you focus on gets bigger, whatever you focus on becomes a bigger part of your mind. I'm not going to focus on the enemy. I'm going to focus on the hope in Jesus Christ. My focus is on my blessed assurance and in my salvation. And I'm going to focus on being optimistic as a Christian and hopeful as a Christian. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. I'm not going to focus on the negative. I'm not going to focus on the government and focus on this. Yes, we need to address things and be truthful. Don't misunderstand me. We need to be optimistic. We need to be truthful. We need to be. We need to know what's going on. But we don't stay there. Yesterday I put a video about YouTube and the algorithm and partnership and all this kind of stuff. But hey, I dealt with that in that video. It's time to move on. You go on to something else. So you can't focus all the time on the negative things. You have to have the ability to look at, say, okay, I've dealt with this. Now I'm going to go to something else. You are looking at right now, while I'm here live on YouTube, and if you look at our catalog of videos, I think it's over 100, maybe 125 videos now. This will maybe be 126. I always lose count of how many videos we have up, not counting videos that we've put other places that aren't necessarily on YouTube. So we've probably made 150 to 160 overall videos. You're looking at what I do as it's a hobby, but it's a hobby that has potential to do other things in the future. I promise you that this hobby has definitely helped me get off the couch, the self-imposed darkness, help deal with that, help deal with so many other things, because it gets my mind off the mess. You still have to deal with the mess, but you don't have to ruminate on the mess and think about it all the time, and do something positive that I enjoy doing. I love doing this. I love what I'm doing right now, this second. This is fun. Some people like model airplanes. I like doing this. And there's nothing wrong with model airplanes. I wish I could do them, but man, I get glue all over my fingers, and I can't do them. I'm terrible at model airplanes and model cars. Awful. When I was a kid, it was a nightmare. But I love going deer hunting. I love going in the woods. What I love about deer hunting more than anything is just being out in nature, because I'm a terrible deer hunter. I'm a terrible hunter, period. But I'm very good at going out in the woods and enjoying being out in nature and loving those things. It is okay for you to have a hobby. And if you say, well, I don't have the money to do A, B, or C, I would get started in your hobby doing whatever it is that you do. And I promise you, whatever that is that you do, those things will begin to happen for you. Whatever your hobby is, you will run into things that empower and enable your hobby to get better. I know that when I started doing videos, YouTube videos, I did all of them on my cell phone. I did all of my YouTube videos on my cell phone. The first 50 videos, I think, were all on I can't remember. I never can remember what point I started using my Mac. But I made them on my cell phone. It was so difficult, and the cuts were worse than the cuts are now. And you had to put up with how terrible your videos look to other people's videos, because there's no way. It's hard to edit an entire video on your phone. It is. I cannot tell you how hard it is. Had I waited till I had all the right stuff to get into my hobby, I would have never been where I'm at. I would have never had the subscribers I have now. I wouldn't have started. But what happened is I started doing the best I had. It was the best I had. So I started doing my hobby with the best tool that I had. And then it led to getting a Mac, and slowly you're adding stuff, and it just happens. Whether you run into somebody who's getting rid of something, and all of a sudden they're like, here, I don't need this. You want this? And you're like, yeah, I could really use it. It just happens. So the pursuit of what you're wanting to do comes before you have everything that you need to do it. The pursuit comes first. And I think a lot of times I'm hearing a lot of YouTube creators right now talk about how the golden age of the YouTube is over and all this other stuff. And I really hate that they're doing that. The reason why I hate that they're doing that isn't because of me, because that doesn't affect me at all. But I worry about other creative people, because it would discourage them. And I'm thinking, don't worry about them. The paradigm has shifted, but the paradigm is also going to bring some blessings that those other older YouTube people didn't probably have, that you're going to have access to that they didn't, because they've already pioneered the trail. So whatever it is that you have to do, remember that life is a marathon. It is not a sprint. And so your circumstances right now they're not forever. But you have to do the things right now to change your circumstances in the future. So be optimistic. Be interesting, challenge yourself, and be extraordinary. Think outside of the box. And I will say this, it goes back to the laughter thing. I spent a lot of time this hour talking about laughter and how you need to be around the right laughter. You don't want to be around humor that's cynical, I want to say this again, or sarcastic or negative. Be around good humor that isn't tearing somebody else down, that isn't tearing another thing down. Be a humor that lifts up. And I want to say this about music. Music is so helpful to change your attitude and your mood. But be careful what music you listen. Just like laughter, listen to music that focuses you on getting to a particular goal. I love Christian music, but I love all music. Music is good, okay? I love music. But you have to be careful, even with Christian music. Some of that stuff depresses me to death. And that's nothing personal to Christian artists, but man, if I listen to some of their stuff, man, it's like, that is the most depressing sound I have ever heard in my life. And I just go, oh. And it's because it's just, it's like bad grunge music. I can't explain it. And the artist can be phenomenal. The music can be great, but it's not what I'm going to listen to when I'm going through those dark moments. I listen to black gospel. That is what I listen to in those moments, because you're needing something there to give you that nice jolt. It doesn't mean that you have to go to a church that listens to that plays the type of music that you like. Matter of fact, that's focusing too much on your preferences and not enough on Christ. I'm talking about what helps you deal with that darkness. And for me, it's black gospel. I want to listen to something rocking out, to get going and get up off that couch. I did it this morning because I had to, in the name of Jesus, my way out of the bed. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it was tough, but I wanted to be here for you. I really felt like there was a need to talk about not giving up when everything is so negative today. And so I put on that song, I'm Sold Out, and I'm not going to even try to sing it, but just Google it. I'm Sold Out, and put gospel behind it. And that is, I listened to it like 5 times dancing around the house. My youngest daughter, Crystal, is home sick today, and I was so scared she was going to wake up and see me in there doing my chicken dance when I'm listening to black gospel. It was going to, I had it going on, man. I looked really stupid too, by the way. But nobody was in the house, or nobody was in here to see me, so it was just me, and I was rocking out, and it felt great, and it was awesome. Listen to positive music that moves you, and make sure that what you're listening to isn't negative. Because that stuff gets in your head. Let's say you're watching this video and you're mad because you're not a believer, you don't believe in Christ, and you're mad, and you're probably already in the comments, whatever. That's fine. But you're still listening. I want to say this, that even if you're a non-believer and you've never considered accepting Christ as your Savior, be careful what kind of music that you're listening to. And I just say that because of the negative stuff in it. Do you really want that in your head all the time? Have you ever considered that, what it's like to have negative words in your head? Carol and I talk about this. We'll be reminiscing sometimes, on one of our mountain trips, rocking out to something we listened to when we were younger. And for her, it's usually Linkin Park, and she's rocking out to Linkin Park. And I probably get the Blues Travelers or David Matthews going. But we won't listen to that long, because some of the words and some of the things that are taking place in that music is very negative. We don't need that rolling around in our head. And so it's there's nothing wrong listening to music. I'm not trying to say that. What I'm trying to say is, when you're in that darkest hour, you want to monitor what you're hearing, what you're seeing, because everything that is happening around you is penetrating, whether you realize it or not. Stay off the YouTube conspiracy websites for a while, because those things, think about all the music in those conspiracy videos. It's always dark kind of music and sinister. You don't need that all the time in your head. You don't need that all the time. And, I always save those videos for when I'm in a good mood and want a good science fiction movie. I love it. Listen, my name is Bill Marion. If you dropped in here today, I want to thank you so much for watching this live stream. Thank you for being a part of it. It is not possible without you. And if you're watching this on the repeat, thank you. And I would love for you to subscribe to our channel and click the bell for notifications. And also, please join us on Facebook at Bill Marion Life. Again, that's at Bill Marion Life. And I'm still learning to use Twitter, but you can follow us on Twitter and help me with Twitter. And this is how you help me with Twitter. Tweet at me, so I'll know what to do, because then I have to ask people how I do it. But it's at Bill and Carolyn, and Carolyn spells her name Caroline. I want to leave you with this. What I keep telling myself is about 7 or 8 months ago, I almost quit doing the whole video thing, because I was just like, this isn't going anywhere. This is silly. I'm too old for this. And while I was on YouTube, I just happened to have a thumbnail there in the right-hand corner of the YouTube page about George Foreman's rise to his championship when he beat Moore for the heavyweight title of the world. If you're a boxing fan, you need to YouTube that and watch that, at least the 10th round again, where a 40-something-year-old George Foreman, who he was a sideshow, he was a carnival, people really weren't taking him seriously, but he managed to work his way up to get a shot at the title, and he knocked Moore out in the 10th round. And that got me off of the couch, that one video, because here's George Foreman, who didn't even look like, he looked like a cartoon, he looked like a caricature of a boxer, like something you would see on that old boxing video game. I don't know if you remember the boxing video game I'm talking about, but he just looks crazy looking. But it motivated me. I said, you know what? You're never too old. You're never too old, and you have to get that stuff out of your head. You're never too old. You can learn the skills that you need. You can learn to connect with people, but you have to move and you have to get up in order to do it. Again, thank you so much for watching. I'm Bill Marion, and this is A Nose for Life. Now, here's the hard part: is learning how to stop streaming. Here we go. Again, thanks for watching.